Welcome to Slumpbusters for another episode of the Slumpbuster podcast. I am your host, Juju Talk Sports, and on today's episode, Kyle Ledbetter and I go through the NBA Christmas Day schedule, go through the NFL Week 16 schedule, talked about TuAnon and Anthony Davis, but before we do that, folks, I need you to hit like, comment, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and most importantly, sit down, bust a slump, and enjoy the episode. Welcome in Slumpbusters, and welcome to the official podcast brought to you by TuAnon. Yes, TuAnon, to our Lord and Savior, Tua Tagovailoa.
Yes.
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a happy Tua season. Let's go.
Oh, that was difficult to listen to, you trying to pronounce his last name on the second one.
I tried to just squeeze that one in.
You got halfway through and then just ejected on it, like Tagovailoa.
I'm starting to think I got that dad gene coming in where I purposely mispronounce names like Pokemon versus Pokemon. Like, Dad, come on, it's Pokemon. Pokemon, yeah, they're all Pikachu.
Pikachu. Do you think you can get the quarterback for Clemson? Do you think you can get his name?
I have moments in which I nail it, but then I kind of it depends on it. These Pacific Islander names can vary on me. DJ Uangoloi.
Yeah, pretty much it.
My thing is I got to slow down on them. If I try and just kind of speed rush by it, I got it on the first one, like you said, Tagovailoa, but as Tagovailoa. It's kind of like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, where I'm just kind of just rambling. Specifically Pacific Islander. I would say also Czechoslovakian. Those ones also kind of fuck with me.
That's totally fair. There's one guy for the I think he's on the Heat now, or maybe he signed somewhere else, but he got traded to the Heat last year. Oh no, he's on the Warriors, and his name is Nemanja Bjelica. In the NBA, it's Bjelica. Very difficult for people to get there, but yeah, Eastern European is difficult.
Russian,
there.
Yeah. Khabib. I don't even try. I've tried Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah,
see, I have to really kind of slow it down.
I don't think that's how it is.
Nurmagomedov, I've heard it. There's a lot of people I've seen just kind of throw their best pronunciation at it.
Yeah, that one I don't even feel comfortable trying to do because I've only seen his name.
Nurmagomedov, I think, is kind of the official. That's probably the best I've actually ever pronounced it, to be honest.
Well, after derailing the podcast a bit, TuAnon, glad that you're bringing this up now because you've got your cult with the Miami Dolphins. We're going to need you to start singing the Dolphins theme song before this podcast is over because they have a fun 1970s theme song that is remade by T-Pain in 2008 that we play on the podcast all the time. We're going to need you to sing the Dolphins fight song at some point.
I think the important thing here is specifically for the YouTube censors here, we are saying TuAnon. Very important distinction in here as the almighty algorithm looks down on this podcast. We're talking about TuAnon.
Yeah, we're talking about TuAnon and the 6th consecutive win Miami Dolphins going up against the team I've been saying all along was going to make the playoffs, the New Orleans Saints. They came in there and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football.
I think I got your cult here. The Lumasanti. There we go. The Lumasanti versus the TuAnon. There we go.
Because Mickey Loomis is the GM. I get what you did there. Yeah, roll on with the Who Dat Nation down there in New Orleans because please make the playoffs so we don't have to watch Washington or Philadelphia.
I don't want to watch Taysom Hill.
At least Alvin Kamara is more fun than watching
I'd rather
Washington.
Watch the Eagles.
The Eagle...
Out of the playoff teams, I would rather watch the Eagles. Actually, who I'd really want, if we're talking about who we want, who we can justify for the 7th seed, I would say the Vikings would probably be the best roster out of the mix to make it. I'd rather see Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, even Adam Thielen. That offense alone is going to be more enjoyable watch than, as you mentioned, Washington, as you mentioned, the Eagles. And as I'm mentioning, I don't like watching the Saints. Part of the thing that we've gone back and forth with you saying the Saints are a playoff team, they were not supposed to beat the Buccaneers. Actually, I picked them in that first matchup against the Bucs, but they were not supposed to sweep the Buccaneers, more specifically. Not this way, not shutting out Tom Brady for the first time at home in his NFL career, not shutting him out for the first time since 2006. 6. That was not supposed to happen. Chris Godwin out with the ACL, Mike Evans banged up, Leonard Fournette banged up. Absolute disaster situation happened in Tampa. I guess at this point, we're already into the weeds here. Monday Night Football game preview, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints. We're talking about 2 7-7 teams. We'll kind of revisit, we'll kind of bounce around subjects here, but let's just get into this one since we're already talking it. Out of these teams, you're on the side, the Saints are the most likely to make the playoffs, and the Saints get lucky because they are in this bottomless hell of the 7th seed that is the NFC as it currently stands here today. Whereas the Dolphins still have a little bit of work to do. The Dolphins have to win out. The Dolphins put themselves in one of the deepest holes that they could possibly imagine. And to their credit, they are the first team to ever turn a 7-game losing streak into a 6-game winning streak. Incredible mark by Brian Flores. At this point, Tua has better QBRs in the last stretch of games than even Jimmy Garoppolo or Mac Jones for comparison standpoint. So even Tua, though I don't think he's elite, sorry TuAnon supporters, he has made significant strides. They even did this last game without Jalen Waddle. They should have not been that close in that game against the Jets. We talk about dumb picks a lot on this show. We talk about bare booty ass cheek type performances. That's what that one was, that pick 6 against the Jets. It did not need to happen. And that, I guess that's still part of the learning curve. But I'm sure if you're Brian Flores, you come from the Bill Belichick coaching tree, you were just cringing. You were furious internally seeing that one there, because the best way to win a game is to not lose a game. And Tua almost lost in that game with that one.
Yeah, this is kind of the weird part for Miami is like we kind of know that they've played an easy schedule and we know that their offense still has holes in it. But even still, Miami's been super interesting to watch for the past few weeks. Obviously, we've talked about this on past podcasts now, is that it's really hard to figure out who Tua Tagovailoa is as a quarterback, even though we've now watched him for a full season's worth of games, plus, you know, a couple more at this point. But we know Tua is a very accurate quarterback. They don't really open up the offense very much for him. The Miami Dolphins' strength is in their defense, as we saw against the New York Jets. Like the Jets scored 10 points really quickly and then couldn't really score the rest of the game, apart from a pick 6 from Tua and an interception that set up another touchdown. So only when the offense gave the Jets opportunities could the Jets really score against the Dolphins. Not that that's like a huge bar to hit for a defense, is preventing the Jets from scoring, because it's not been a great year for the Jets. But Miami's not going to make the playoffs. I've been saying this for a while, but it's still a really fun story to watch it play out, because Miami winning 6 games in a row puts Miami in a position where they're like, maybe with hitting on enough draft picks and maybe getting a couple players here and there, we too can take the next leap into a wild card spot in the AFC. And they've traded 2 first-round picks to get Jalen Waddle. They used a lot of cap space, even though they have more. These are bigger picture questions for them. Going into this game, I'm just going to, bury myself in my corner and pick the New Orleans Saints, of course, because I can't go against the boys at this point. And I imagine Juju's going to go all the way in on his Miami Dolphins, because not like I don't like the Miami Dolphins. I'm the person who's like pissing on the expectations that they're going to make the playoffs. It's a fun story. Yes. It's a fun story in the meantime.
It is. And what I'll say here is I think their playoff chances legitimately died with the Colts beating the Patriots on Saturday. I think their best shot was the Colts losing that game, losing the Cardinals game, and then falling through with the expectations of beating their last 2 opponents. They're the winnable opponents. But you are correct. I will pick those Miami Dolphins here. And I don't know their fight song, but I'm sure we'll learn it later. We'll be able to drink the Miami Dolphins Kool-Aid on this one here. Led by their backfield of Duke Johnson. Fun fact I found out, been doing a little research about this one. Duke Johnson back from the dead. Did you know that Duke Johnson is the all-time Miami Hurricanes rushing leader, as well as their all-time single season rushing leader? So him actually having that successful game last week where he's the number 1 fantasy back for the Miami Dolphins was a nice little homecoming moment. Also shows you just how bad the Jets rushing defense is. If you bet against the Jets rushing defense, you're probably going to win 10 times out of 10, 11 times out of 10. Check that, 12 times out of 10, because they are just that significantly bad. What I'm going to say, how the Dolphins are going to get there. They're going to get there with a big man touchdown. I'm saying it again. Christian Wilkins, give me that worm touchdown celebration that everyone's talking about. Huh? Give me a little bit of that. It's hard to really buy into when it comes to the New Orleans Saints. They won. Yeah, their defense was amazing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that offense just, with Taysom Hill, is just so non-exciting. And I think Brian Flores and the Dolphins could do a great job at containing that New Orleans Saints offense. Did you realize that Marquez Callaway was their first wide receiver / tight end with a 100-yard performance this season?
I'm aware because I drafted him in fantasy football and he's been sitting on my bench the entire season. Like I didn't drop him. I didn't add anyone. Like he just was sitting there the whole year, just putting up 4.8 points a game every single week. And then he finally had one big week this week to help me get into the playoffs, except he didn't help me get in the playoffs because he's been on my bench the entire season.
Bottom line, the Saints just aren't explosive enough. If you're telling me they're that talent depleted at wide receiver, them not having Michael Thomas this season was definitely one of the biggest hits to their offense. At least having that guy, whatever you think of Michael Thomas as a possession receiver, I would have still loved just having him on the field. If he's running slants all day, cool. It's better than just having this quartet of Marquez Callaway. What is it?
It's not like
Harris.
Michael Thomas still isn't one of the 10 best wide receivers in the NFL.
Exactly. Even if his skill set is one thing, if you do that thing exceptionally well to the level that Michael Thomas does it, it is game changing for an offense. They wish they had someone that just did anything well. Clearly,
especially when you build an offense like Sean Payton has for 15 years that's predicated on extreme accuracy. If it's an offense that values pinpoint accuracy more than anything else, it's going to make your offense so much better to have a short yardage wide receiver that can get reception after reception after reception. And now this is the second year in a row that Michael Thomas has been injured. I know he played through last season with a torn MCL and a broken leg, and he still played through it last year and probably going to ruin his career a good bit. But the Saints are about where we thought the Saints would be, which is fighting it out to try and make it into the playoffs. If you had predicted at the start of the season where the Saints were going to be, this is about where people thought the Saints were going to be at this time. And I still think they're good enough to make the playoffs. And I've been calling them the Saints, but we have a new rule on the Take It Easy podcast, which is they are the New Orleans Chimeras for the rest of time here. Is that for the next 3 weeks, I know you shouldn't use running backs the way that we give them 35 carries and destroy their legs in their mid-20s, but just give the ball to Kamara. Just to say the entire offense is going to be the Belichick offense of 40 run plays. Give them all to Kamara and a couple to Mark Ingram here and there. Just run the ball over and over and over again, because Alvin Kamara is still one of the 5 best running backs in the NFL.
The fun way it's working out for the Saints is if they do end up in that 7 seed, of course, their first round opponent is looking very much like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at that 2 seed. So we might be staring down again a similar playoff situation to last year where Saints go in and sweep Brady, because apparently just if there's one thing that can stop Brady, it is the New Orleans Saints in the regular season, of course. He is getting done to him what he has been doing to the Buffalo Bills for years. Do you like it, Tom? Do you like it? This is how it feels when an opponent just legitimately owns you.
Do you know who Tom Brady has lost to since joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? It's really unbelievable. Tom Brady's record since he joined Tampa Bay. Because
4 losses to the Saints.
Yep.
He
has 4 losses to the Saints, 2 losses to the Rams, 4 to the Saints, 1 to Nick Foles, and 1 to Taylor Heineke. That's it. That is the entire list of Tom Brady losses since joining Tampa. It's 4 Saints, 2 Rams, Nick Foles, and Taylor Heineke.
At the very least, you'll say the Saints defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, I believe, probably locked himself down for a head coaching opportunity. His ability to go in there and fill in for Sean Payton too as an interim head coach probably put him in line for any potential job openings this season, because the Saints are very much a team. And I think about growing up with the Saints and Drew Brees, a very offensive-led team. This is far and away a defensive-led unit. Their defense, I'm sure, is going to put up some great exotic blitz schemes to confuse the Miami Dolphins offensive line, mix in a lot of packages that they were able to work in against the Buccaneers. I mean, the Bucs obviously have a great offensive line. The Miami Dolphins have a bad offensive line. But I think what the Dolphins are going to probably do well is classic Tua football, as Janoris Jenkins made it a point to point out a couple weeks ago. Or it wasn't Janoris Jenkins. I'm thinking Giants cornerback. Who was it? You probably know.
The Giants, James Bradbury,
it was the guy that came after. Yes, it was Adoree Jackson who came after Tua for his style of play, the 2-yard passes down the field. But against a team that could get off a blitz package, that might work. That might be something in which actually can put together. The only thing is, can they run on the Saints? Obviously, you're talking about Myles Gaskin, Duke Johnson, Malcolm Brown. Salvin Ahmed, a bunch of also Rams going against one of the best run defenses in the league. I guess I'm just going to put it down. I think that Miami's defense will do more in this game, whereas I don't think that the Saints defense will be able to have another shutdown performance. I guess that's where we'll go. We'll disagree on this one. We'll have a little fun with it just because of where we put ourselves in the quarters the last couple of weeks. Either way, I'd like to see it. A 10-game run to close out the season, regardless of making the playoffs or not. Well, that'd be one hell of a headline to go into for the next season if you're a Miami Dolphins fan.
9 straight wins to finish the season. That might get him into the playoffs. By the way, I think the reason Dennis Allen probably won't get a head coaching job is because people remember what happened when Dennis Allen was a head coach. And for people who forget, Dennis Allen has been a head coach in the NFL before. It was 4-12, 4-12, 0-10 as head coach of the Oakland Raiders back in the early 2010s.
But you have a rule. Remember, the Raiders can't be good. Is that Dennis Allen, or is that just by virtue of being a Raiders head coach?
Yeah, but Dennis Allen can't
Del
get
Rio.
one of the good head coaching jobs. He's going to get a Raiders adjacent franchise as his head coaching job, like the Chicago Bears or the Houston Texans. It's not like Dennis Allen's available for any of the good head coaching jobs. He's going to have to do what Man Campbell did and go coach a terrible franchise again.
At the end of the day, there's very little good head coaching jobs when a franchise fires their head coach.
Yeah. One job every couple of years that opens up, like the Rams or the 49ers or the Colts that Josh McDaniels turned down, even though it might have been the best head coaching job of the last 3 years.
All right, guys, we jumped the gun a little bit. We usually don't do our NFL previews this early. Kyle baited me, and it was too good a topic to pass up talking about that excellent Monday Night Football game we have on tap. But
And
we
TuAnon.
do have some games beforehand that are important, especially with here talking to the NBA correspondent of the Slumpbuster podcast. It's Christmas Day, which is one of the biggest things for the NBA as we talk about mile markers in the season. What are important dates? What are things that matter? There is a large contingent of NBA players, coaches, fan bases that say the real season doesn't start till after Christmas. And here we are this Saturday, Christmas Day. Happy Christmas. Watch a lot of NBA games. I guess you can watch some NFL games. I'm sure the NBA is not too happy about that one, to be honest.
And if you're really feeling yourself at 11:30 in the morning on the West Coast, you can watch the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl if you're really feeling the sports day on Christmas. Because yes, they're making yeah, no, that's a real thing that's happening. I think it's they're making kids. I think it's Ball State and someone from Conference USA, maybe Middle Tennessee or something, is playing in the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl on Christmas Day in Birmingham, Alabama.
Fun. I didn't want to spend time with my family and friends. I want to play in the Camellia Raycom Soup Bowl. I don't care. It's all dumb. I hate bowl games, to be honest. That's maybe my hot take. Anyone who loves college football, I'm not a bowl game guy. I love the games that matter. I love the playoff games. Anything else, like I grew up around the New Mexico Bowl. It's whatever. One's like, oh man, New Mexico Bowl champions. Let's go. No.
San Diego State used to care about that, but less so now that it's the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. By the way, I found out only costs $65,000 to sponsor a bowl game. So if we want to pool some money together, we could sponsor a bowl game ourselves, like Barstool or Jimmy Kimmel did.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind for the 2022 salary. Stow that one away for the Happy Day Bowl Fund, I guess.
Yes, so we can sponsor a one-time bowl game in Mobile, Alabama.
All right. How should we do this? Should we just do some quick picks? I don't think we're going to go in depth on each and every game here. Let's do this. I'm just going to run down the games. You're going to give me your pick, and then we're going to choose the most exciting out of these mixtures, and we'll go into those. Okay?
All righty.
All right. Our first game off the bat is going to be the Celtics. They are going into Milwaukee, 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Ooh, this is an interesting game because Milwaukee is maybe going to be without Giannis in the COVID protocol. So I'll take the Bucks just because the Bucks are better than the Celtics.
So the Celtics have won when Giannis has been off the court. That's the only time we could beat the Bucks.
Yes, when Chris Middleton is their best player, that's when you can beat them.
Actually, I don't even think they had Chris Middleton the last time they beat the Bucks. I think they legitimately got lucky. They won in overtime, and the Bucks' top 3 or top 4 stars were out. Neither here nor there. Let's move into the next one. The Atlanta Hawks. This one's a little bit earlier, actually. This one is the 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. They will be going into New York. They will be going into Madison Square Garden. The last time I remember, I don't know if it's the last time. They probably played in Madison Square Garden earlier in the season, but the last time that comes to memory of Trae Young in Madison Square Garden was, of course, last year's playoffs, where Trae Young, he's been living rent-free there for a while.
Take a bow, wave goodbye. This is the first time that Trae Young has played in the Garden since that game. This is also the first time in 8 years that the Knicks have gotten on Christmas Day. And this used to be a Christmas Day tradition. When I was a young lad of maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, every year on Christmas, it would be waking up, opening presents, and for some weird reason at 9:30 in the morning on the West Coast would be a shitty Knicks basketball game against the Heat or the Celtics. It just, for some reason, one year it was Toronto. Like, it just always had a terrible New York Knicks game, just like a terrible Lions game at 9 a.m. on Thanksgiving. They stopped putting the Knicks on TV for a while. The Knicks are finally back in that classic 9 a.m. West Coast start time on Christmas Day. By the way, both teams are below 500 in this game. The Hawks and the Knicks both below 500 going into this game. I'll take the Knicks because Trae Young and Bogdanovich and Gallinari are all in the COVID protocol.
When Kyle was a young lad, he watched the Knicks lose into the Garden against the Trae Youngs. That's pretty much what they are. They're not even the Hawks. They're just the Trae Youngs. But he said young lad. I was just like, why am I thinking Black Parade? Why is that coming on?
But they did make the playoffs last year, and they'll get to play a play-in game against the Charlotte Hornets in a few months.
Goody. Now LaMelo Ball can do the same in the Garden, have his playoff moment just to spite them.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this next one here. So things get a little bit more exciting here. We got the Golden State Warriors at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. They will be going against the Phoenix Suns.
This was an unintentionally great game for the NBA because when they made this schedule at the start, I don't think they thought that these would be the two best teams in the Western Conference at the time that they set this up. So unintentionally great Christmas Day game for them. I will take the Warriors in this one. I don't think anyone's in the COVID protocol for this one, so I think this one will have your full strength teams. It's got to compete against Browns and Packers. I will probably choose this over Browns and Packers, got to be honest. Probably going to choose Warriors Suns over Browns Packers.
The Brooklyn Nets, and you talk about a potential Western Conference Finals preview. I think going into the season, a lot of people pick this as their NBA Finals preview. The Brooklyn Nets will be going into Los Angeles to face the Lakers, to face LeBron, to face AD. 7 p.m.
Not Anthony Davis, though.
Oh,
Anthony
that's
Davis.
right. I forgot. He had an ankle injury pop up this week, right? Because of
ankle injury combined with a sprained MCL. So knee and ankle injury.
Wait, what? Anthony Davis hurt? What?
Yeah, this would be injuries, I believe, 34 and 35 in his 8-year NBA career. He has missed extended time now with 35 different injuries in 8 years.
You know, I'm just picturing a meme of like LeBron. How many injuries is AD going to have this year? Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. I'm not counting up to 36. But you get the point. Anthony Davis, I think I saw Mr. Glass was trending on Twitter at one point.
Yep. I believe Charles Barkley's nickname for him is Street Clothes. I love that nickname, that Anthony Davis is Street Clothes. I like that was also trending on Twitter after he got hurt because, yeah, it's going to be another month and a half without Anthony Davis for the Lakers. But also Kevin Durant's in the COVID protocol. So this game is very weird. All of these Christmas games. This is the one that the league might have to move because there's so many COVID cases on the Brooklyn Nets. I'll take the Lakers just because I know LeBron and Westbrook are going to play. So for the time being, I'll take the Lakers. By the way, how has James Harden not gotten COVID? Like, out of all of this time, James Harden has still never gotten COVID, apparently, in like 18 months with partying with Lil Baby and getting his jersey retired in Houston strip clubs and just being James Harden. Like, James Harden has still somehow never ended up in COVID protocol.
I think that alcohol probably just kills the virus. Or maybe like his beard works as like a weird defense. Like his beard is like a mask in itself. I remember when COVID first came out, and I myself, as a bearded gentleman, was told that guys with beards tend to get COVID more. But apparently with James Harden, it is not the case.
Yeah, James Harden still somehow, we don't know for certain, but I'm fairly sure James Harden has still never had COVID, which is pretty remarkable considering Lamar Jackson has had COVID 17 times now. I'm stunned that nothing.
Sean Payton twice? Hell, we didn't even mention that in the last game. Sean Payton just got COVID again, and he's had boosters. He had shots. Kevin Stefanski. Yeah.
So disappointed they didn't just put Kevin James dressed as Sean Payton on the Saints sideline this weekend.
Opportunity. Huge missed opportunity right there. That would have been as great as if Andy Reid needed to sit out and they got the Andy Reid lookalike in Kansas City to come down as well.
Yeah, I'll take the Lakers anyways.
The Lakers just because last man standing, I guess, at this point. All right, last game up is going to be the Mavericks and the Jazz. I believe I just saw breaking news. Luka Doncic. Is Doncic or Doncic?
It depends. You can go Doncic or Doncic. Both of them are correct.
Doncic. Luka Doncic. That still doesn't sound right to me. Either way. Well,
I call him Doncic.
He will be entering the COVID protocol today, which obviously this game is Saturday. Highly doubt he's going to be suiting up against the Utah Jazz, 9:30 Central start time.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm taking the Jazz. Seems to be a theme with all these games is your stars are not going to play because everyone's in the COVID protocol.
Merry Christmas, guys, apart. And a Happy New Year with a new variant because that's just our life now.
Year 3, baby. Year 3 of COVID now. Let's get it.
All right. Well, I think that based off our conversation here, short-lived, the best game standing is the Warriors and the Suns. Any more deeper analysis to this game here?
Nope. Go watch Colts and Cardinals instead on the back half of games. No need to watch Mavericks and Jazz. No need to watch Nets and Lakers. Well, Nets and Lakers you can watch if you want, but I would recommend watching Colts and Cardinals instead. Warriors Suns is interesting because it's hard to do like one game samples on basketball, which is why regular season games become less relevant in the NBA. But I am interested to watch the Warriors Suns game for multiple reasons. One, Jordan Poole might be back for the Golden State Warriors. I'm not sure if that'll make a difference, but he's basically been their de facto third best player this season, which is a little surprising because he was an undrafted guy from Michigan who we all remember hitting the crazy buzzer beater in March Madness. And then he kind of reemerged a couple years later as this really great player for the Warriors. So I think getting Jordan Poole back will help. And Phoenix feels like they win when they shoot well and they lose when they don't shoot well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Chris Paul and Devin Booker in that game. And maybe this is the Mikal Bridges game. Who knows? Maybe eventually Mikal Bridges will come in and look like a legitimate third scoring option. It'll be interesting to watch.
At this current point in time, the season series is leaning towards the Phoenix Suns as they are 2-1 against the Golden State Warriors in this 2021.
They've played 3 times already? Jesus.
Guess so. That's at least according to statmuse.com for reference there.
Statmuse.com. So this is the last time they play this year. That's interesting. This is the last time the Warriors play the Suns this year.
Do you think the NBA just didn't realize a little bit ago, you talked about it, didn't realize just how good the Warriors were going to be, just how good the Suns were going to continue to be?
I don't know, because they still put one of them on national TV and then they put another one on Christmas. So I think the Suns were the defending Western Conference champions and up 2-0 on the Bucks at one point. But I think even still people were surprised that the Suns were as good as they were to start this season. And I don't even know if it's the truth. Like, I don't know if the Suns like come back down to earth in the second half of the season and we start to see a clear gap between them and the Warriors, because I feel certain the Warriors are really good. I don't feel as certain about Phoenix. But at the same time, maybe this is just schedules work this way. Like in the NFL, the Vikings play the Bears twice in the last 4 weeks of the season. Like sometimes that's how the schedule breaks, I guess.
As long as they got their 3 guys, I think they'll be fairly well off, more than what we also got going on when you talk about the other famous trios or duos currently in the Western Conference. Obviously, you talk about the Nuggets already. They're hurting without Jamal Murray in there, and they lost Michael Porter Jr. earlier in the season. Now we're talking about the Lakers without Anthony Davis. Even if worst case, everyone's stats to trend downward for Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, if they're still on the court, they're at least going to maintain balance. And considering they already built up such equity at the early part of the season, I don't know how far they could really drop off from at least top 4 in the West.
Well, this is the same thing that happened last year in the playoffs, because you had every single one of the top 10 teams had a significant member of their team get injured, except the Phoenix Suns. But then Chris Paul went into COVID protocol during the Western Conference Finals. So Phoenix got to advance because it just happened to be that everyone had some kind of injury. For Utah, it was Mike Conley. For the Clippers, it was Kawhi Leonard. Lakers lost LeBron and Anthony Davis late in that series. The Nuggets lost Jamal Murray in the regular season. In the Eastern Conference, you could go down the line to DiVincenzo being out for the Bucks. Brooklyn Nets lost Kyrie Irving and James Harden at times during their series. The Hawks lost Trae Young at the end of the conference finals. The 76ers didn't have any injuries. They just had Ben Simmons fall apart at the end. So even still, injuries injuries and people being out is kind of what's affecting entire results in sports, as we're seeing right now in the NFL. Like, injuries and results like this are affecting the results that we see. And that's kind of just sports. I think it's just at such a high volume now that we just feel like there's an issue with it. And I guess we have this conversation every decade or so, and we have a couple years in a row with bad injuries, and a global pandemic only exacerbates the fact that people are out for extended periods of time. So yeah, I think this is kind of the same situation as last year, where Phoenix and Golden State hasn't had Klay Thompson, but Phoenix and Golden State rise above everyone else because they just happen to stay healthier.
You think the NBA is just a little bit sad in their game planning here that Klay Thompson was not healthy in time for this one?
It hurts, but I think the narrative is still fun with Warriors versus Suns, because the most remarkable thing that happened this year, and this is from someone who said at the start of the year, the Warriors would be better, but wouldn't be better than the Lakers or even the Denver Nuggets to a certain extent. Even while saying that, the Warriors don't have Klay Thompson, and they're still the best team in the NBA. They've basically, Andrew Wiggins has spent so much time playing the Warriors offense that now he starts to do some of the things we saw from Harrison Barnes, and Jordan Poole does some of the things that Klay Thompson does, and Damian Lee does some of the stuff where he just spots up shoots from three. And it's really interesting to see the Warriors offense, because of Steph Curry demanding so much of the defense and being still MVP good. It opens all the opportunities that Klay Thompson had, that Harrison Barnes had during those first two runs, that Leandro Barbosa had. It's really interesting to see that version of the Warriors come back to life, because Steph Curry now has teammates that know how to play with Steph Curry. It took 2 or 3 years to get there, but he has teammates that now know how to play basketball around Steph Curry, and the Warriors are fine even without Klay Thompson. I'm so fascinated to see how good they get to be with Klay Thompson back on offense, combined with the fact the Warriors have allowed the fewest points in the NBA this season. Draymond Green can't play offense, and they don't need him to, because Draymond Green win Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA this year for like the third time in his career now, or fourth time in his career, because the strength of the Warriors teams that we didn't talk about enough from 2015 to 2016 was Golden State always being 1 or 2 in defense during those first 2 championship runs. And now they've brought great defense back into the picture. Now that Kevin Durant is gone and the offense doesn't run entirely through him, they've brought great defense back, and it makes them totally overwhelming.
That will be fascinating with Klay back too, just to see how he plays defense coming off the 2 injuries. Because one thing that gets lost in how good of a shooter, how great of a shooter Klay Thompson is that he was also integral in those Golden State Warriors defensive game planning.
Yeah, that's the part that's weird too, is that like the only player on the court you can point to that plays great defense is Draymond Green, and occasionally Kevon Looney and Andre Iguodala coming back, but Iguodala only 12 minutes a game for the Warriors right now. But consistently on the court, Steph Curry's not a good defender. Jordan Poole's not a great defender. Andrew Wiggins, for the first 7 years of his career, was regarded as a shit defender. And now he's not great, but he's playing better defense than he has in his career. I think that it's weird how that's worked out for Golden State, but this feels like Draymond Green is doing so much of the defensive heavy lifting for the Warriors, and having Andre Iguodala back helps to a certain extent, but he's done so much of the heavy lifting defensively for the Warriors that it's amazing how good they've been through this part of the season, when everyone looks at, wow, Steph Curry's been amazing offensively, and Wiggins is averaging 20 a game, and Jordan Poole is averaging like 4 threes a game. And a lot of the defensive side is the reason the Warriors are 22-5 right now, instead of what they were last year, which was scoring a lot of points, but giving up a lot of points at the same time. It's been an interesting flip back for them.
Well, credit to you, and I'll give you a huge credit here. I'll give you your flowers, as they say. Obviously, we go back to the preseason tiers video. You were bold in putting them in championship tier. You put them in finals tier, which I think is huge. You also put the Raptors as a tanking team, which we learned is a big no-no for apparently most Canadians. But you did say that the Warriors were a championship level team, and that's rang true. I think if you were to redo that, probably the only one, would you move Phoenix up to a championship tier?
I would move Phoenix up to a championship tier. Obviously, the Nuggets have got injuries that have messed with them this year. But even when I did that, if you remember the video, like I didn't even believe it when I was saying it. I just felt like Golden State and Denver, one of them was going to make the conference finals, but it felt like they were so far behind the Lakers because the Lakers had 3 all-star caliber players that it felt like just by default putting them in there because someone had to make the conference finals. And if maybe 1 or 2 injuries happen for the Lakers, that team can make it to the NBA finals. I didn't even think Phoenix would be that team. So credit to Phoenix. Like, it was foreseeable because they brought back the same team that went to the finals, but I think we all just assumed, well, if LeBron had been healthy, they would have lost in the first round. Or if Kawhi had been healthy, they would have lost in the first round. Well, now LeBron and Anthony Davis are injured again. Kawhi Leonard's not here. So once again, Phoenix is still better than the Utahs and the Dallases and the Portlands that I think I listed as second round exit type of teams on that graphic that we were talking about. So everlasting credit to Phoenix. They've been really, really good this year. Even if I don't think they're as good as the Warriors, and even though I think if all 3 of the Lakers are playing, they can beat them in a 7-game series, Phoenix is better than I thought, which is a little bit of a cop-out. I know I did the same thing with the Bengals early in the year where I'm like, the Bengals are just better than I thought. But the Suns, I'm like cautiously optimistic. I'm like, they've already proven me wrong. Now it's going to be to what extent they prove me wrong, because I still feel like they're not quite Brooklyn. They're not quite Milwaukee. They're not quite Golden State. Them and the Lakers, I'm like, it'd be fun to watch them play a series against each other in the second round.
All right, let's stay on Christmas Day, but we'll shift back into our NFL predictions here. Let's start off with the first of our Christmas NFL games, where we have the Green Bay Packers facing the Cleveland Browns. As you mentioned, this is a game you might detour from in favor of the Golden State Warriors versus the Phoenix Suns if it came down to one of the two. But in this game, the Packers enter as 7.5-point favorites. This is a do or die game, basically, for the Cleveland Browns. They have no breathing room. They have to win out if they still want to keep this dream alive. If they still want to keep their playoff chances relatively alive as they dwindle by the day. I was actually having a conversation with Drew about this. Obviously, Drew hosts the Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast. Drew, big time Cleveland Browns fan. I think, unfortunately for the Browns, they're starting to get to this point where they struggle when there are expectations on their franchise. Because you go back to the Freddie Kitchens year, there was expectations for Baker to have a good sophomore year. They got playmakers. They got people to improve their defensive line. They got Jarvis Landry, and they fell short that year. While going to this year, people were talking about the Cleveland Browns as a Super Bowl contender. People were saying that this franchise had finally turned the corner, and here we are, fighting for their playoff lives. Their best case to make the playoffs is not the wild card. It's through the division, and they have to have a lot break their way for it to happen. But it starts by facing the number 1 seed in the NFC conference, a team that is atop my power rankings as of today, the Green Bay Packers. And Vegas, as mentioned, tends to agree that this is not even a close matchup. They have the Cleveland Browns as over a touchdown underdog heading into Lambeau. And when I just say this sentence out loud, what do you think? Baker Mayfield goes into Lambeau and wins the game. Does that sound right? Does that sound like within a range of outcomes you would predict? Because to me, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like a big game spot for Baker. As much as I like to believe in him early in his career, as much as I love the brashness, as much as I loved him shooting the shit with Colin Cowherd and like saying, hey, you know what? I like my passion. I like my energy. It started to wear on me. I think it started to wear on a lot of Browns fans, especially when he started to target Browns fans in his press conferences early in the year, battling through the injuries. And now they're going into this game and there's conversations, even though stupid conversations. Should we just roll out Nick Mullins? Should we just roll out Case Keenum? It's not exactly looking great in Cleveland at this moment if you're having to have that conversation here in week 16.
I actually kind of like Cleveland's chances in this game.
Ooh.
And here's the reason why I like Cleveland's chances in this game. Green Bay Packers have struggled to stop the run for 3 consecutive years now. Who's the best running team in the NFL? The Cleveland Browns. The reason that they almost beat the Raiders with Nick Mullins and Donovan Peoples-Jones as their top wide receiver and quarterback tandem, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb had basically 2 touchdowns. One was called back back on penalty that led to the Harrison Bryant touchdown, but basically 2 touchdowns for Nick Chubb, 100 rushing yards. The reason they're going to lose is because the defense is not going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers from scoring 28 points against them. That's just something that it's going to be hard to figure out. Now, if they force turnovers on Aaron Rodgers, this is a very, very winnable game for the Cleveland Browns. Now, are you asking me, who is an optimist for the Cleveland Browns? I think that they're still a pretty good team. The difference between them being the 4 seed and the 12 seed is 1 kick by Daniel Carlson and 1 completion by Derek Carr. That's the only thing that's keeping them from being the number 4 seed right now. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But if you're asking me, will Aaron Rodgers throw 2 interceptions and have 1 fumble against the Cleveland Browns? I'm going to say odds are not great. So for that reason, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. But the Browns have a path to victory in this game. Don't be surprised if Cleveland, at the end, has a chance to win it. Or, actually, I shouldn't say have a chance at the end to win it, because I don't think that's going to go well. It's either going to be Green Bay wins by a couple scores, or Cleveland forces a bunch of turnovers, gets a lead, and then can just run the ball over and over and over on Green Bay. So I think Cleveland can win this game, even if I don't have the cojones to pick Cleveland to win this game. And the reason for that is, if they get an early lead, and if Aaron Rodgers gives them points back by committing turnovers, whether, Myles Garrett has a good pass rushing day, or Troy Hill gets an interception, or Denzel Ward locks down Devontae Adams, or whatever. Interceptions and turnovers are weird in the NFL. Sometimes, you just throw left-handed passes and they get picked off. Turnovers are random in the NFL. But if Cleveland gets a lead, they can beat the Green Bay Packers. And it'll only come if Green Bay turns the ball over and Cleveland gets an early lead. And even then, it might be difficult to win, because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers.
I will actually push back on something you said, though, Green Bay's ability to stop the run. So I just did a little bit of looking here, and this is according to footballdatabase.com. It actually has the Packers as a fairly decent running defense, giving up about 107 rushing yards per game, which would put them within the top 10 against the run. That may be some game scripting in. They might have found themselves in some favorable game scripts where if they establish a lead, it's harder for a team to run against them. But that
they also get Devondre Campbell back as well, which is a huge lift for their rush defense.
They're starting to get a little bit healthier as they go. I don't think that they're anywhere close to that team that went against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. They're far from having Raheem Mostert have almost 200 yards before contact in them. They're not that bad of a run defense as they once were. But I will say that I don't think they're great. And if the Cleveland Browns are able to get Nick Chubb rolling, then sure, that's a pathway for any team. If your elite players are making elite plays, you can win any game. The problem is I need my quarterback to do more. I can't have this be a 40 rushing attempt, less than 20 passing attempt day for Baker. I need him to go out there and make plays for me if I'm going to win this game. You look at how the Packers won this last game with the Ravens panicking and saying, we got to score 2 points because we want to stop Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is still turning out to be, as Stephen A. Smith calls it, that bad man. And to counteract that, the best way is your quarterback also making plays, your quarterback making enough plays to beat Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think Baker has lived up to it this season, certainly, but I don't think Baker has really lived up to it in his career. You think about Baker's best days as a quarterback in the NFL, a lot of them have come against the Cincinnati Bengals, not really against top opponents, not against winning opponents, and certainly not in an environment like Lambeau. Lambeau is such a unique football environment that a lot of quarterbacks aren't ready for. People that play there every year, like Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, people that play in that division aren't ready for it on a given basis. Uncommon opponent, Browns, Packers, Baker going into Lambeau. I don't think that lines up in favor of him, as well, as he's still a young quarterback at the end of the day. And that is still a big time atmosphere. That's a playoff atmosphere. Like I said, a lot of times there's a part of me that wants to say desperate team wins, but the Packers are not desperate in a way. They want to lock up the number 1 seed. For the next 2 weeks, I say the Packers are going to play like a desperate team because they want that number 1 seed. Tampa opened the door for them to firmly lock up that seed. I was talking about it a couple weeks ago that if you looked at the Tampa Bay's last 3 games where they had Carolina twice and the Jets, there was a pathway for Tampa to get back home field advantage. But then, of course, they dropped the one to the Saints, which leaves it wide open for the Packers to secure NFC Championship game, January, Lambeau Field. And that's why they're going to come out. They're going to want to rock the Cleveland Browns, which is not going to rock for Cleveland. Sorry, guys. I think this season ends here. Green Bay Packers for me. Green Bay Packers for Kyle. Have a happy Christmas. Sorry, guys. Let's move on to our next game on the Christmas slate. That is going to be the Colts and the Cardinals. I'm so mad. I am so mad about the Detroit Cardinals game. As a Kyler Murray fantasy football owner, I am honestly livid. I may have made a short joke on the fantasy football podcast, mostly because Kyler Murray came up short of my expectations. And I was so livid Sunday seeing 12 points against the Detroit Lions from Kyler Murray. But this is not a fantasy football podcast. This is not the fantasy football take. This is just my own frustrations. But I do think if you're a Cardinals fan, you do have to start worrying a little bit, because we've started to notice trends. We started to notice trends from Kyler Murray. We started to notice trends from Cliff Kingsbury in December. Currently, as it stands here today, the Cardinals have lost both of their big December games against the Rams and, as it turned out, the Detroit Lions, to the point where you have to wonder if this is almost an endemic issue on this team when the games start to matter a little bit more, because they went from coasting to the number 1 seed to locking out home field advantage to not having to worry about, as I mentioned earlier, going to Lambeau, to now they're in a tie for the division. They might lose the division. They might lose home field advantage. They might have to be a wild card team on the road when it comes to this playoff season. And the only way they're going to avoid it is by beating a Colts team that is 4-1 in their last 5 games. A Colts team that has forced a turnover in every single game this season. A Colts team that forces a lot of turnovers. In fact, leads the NFL in that. We talked about the struggles that the Colts had at one point defensively. They've turned it around. They fixed it. And maybe they have larger issues that the turnovers are masking, but the point is they force them. And right now, the Cardinals are starting to leak the ball over. They're starting to have these bad turnovers. They had the bad turnovers against the Rams. They had the bad turnovers against Detroit. You should not be down 17-0 against the Lions. Man Campbell should not be manhandling you when you're only lost 2 games on the season to that point, 3 games on the season, whatever it is. This is just a shocking turnaround when it comes to the Colts, and certainly a shocking downfall when it comes to the Cardinals at this point in the season. Maybe not so shocking. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Kyle, as again the producer of the Red Reigns podcast with Walter Mitchell, correct? I got the host right?
That is correct. Yes, with SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals
SB
page.
Nation. Yes. All those things. Tell me, what are you expecting from the Cardinals in this game?
Ooh, this is a loaded question, isn't it? Because the Arizona Cardinals have been interesting. The NFL is one of these weird sports where the team you are at the beginning of the season isn't always the team you are at the end of the season. And the Colts and Cardinals are both 2 of these teams where it took a while for the Colts to start to get rolling. A lot of it was the offensive line getting healthy again, and the fact that they've had remarkably good luck in health this year in regards to the rest of the league. And Indianapolis, when I thought that it looked like this run was coming to an end for them, with Costanzo retiring over the offseason and losing guys like, what is his name? The guy who went to the Titans, Danico Autry, losing guys in free agency, Darius Leonard's contract coming up and Quentin Nelson's contract coming up, that they were going to have to kind of retool this team over the next couple of years. And the Colts are actually legitimately good. Like, I think the Colts beating the Patriots was not as surprising as some people made it out to be, considering I picked the Indianapolis Colts to win. Part of that was just game theory, that you picked the Patriots and so I picked the Colts, and the Colts ended up winning. It just happened to work out that way in the pick.
I did say they were close. I went back and forth with that as well. I gave a slightly, and I thought Belichick would have came out a little bit stronger, but the Colts, hey, remember, I've been one of their early supporters going to this point of the season. And so far to this point, I mean, they've only gotten better. You talk about you not being the same team as you start the season as to end the season. I think that just goes into the NFL being a game of adjustments.
And for the Arizona Cardinals, you look at the team that they were at the start of the year when they had that really long win streak, and Kyler Murray was an MVP candidate. And we were all surprised that Arizona had been that good, because most people picked Arizona to finish last place in the NFC West to start the year. And part of that was because all the teams in the NFC West are very strong. The Seahawks ended up not being the strong team this year because Russell Wilson got hurt, but they're still an okay team. Arizona came out really hot at the start of the season, and then Max Williams got hurt. Then JJ Watt got hurt. Both of their guards got hurt. DeAndre Hopkins has only had 600 yards this year, and now he's going to be out until potentially a playoff game. And the culmination of that was just they got smacked by the Detroit Lions. And Jesus Christ, who would have thought that the Arizona Cardinals were going to get just beat, smacked.
if they just lost by a couple points, late field goal, whatever, they were down 17-0 out the gate.
Remember when we were talking about the bottomless pit of hell that was the 7th seed in the NFC a couple weeks ago, and you really wanted to talk about how the Falcons had a chance to make the playoffs? I said that the Falcons would lose every single game the rest of the season, and that included the game they play against the Lions this week, because the Lions, for all the jokes we've made about them, they have been really, really unlucky in one-possession games this year. In fact, the unluckiest team in the NFL in one-possession games. You know who's been the luckiest team in the NFL in one-possession games? The Atlanta Falcons. So it felt like it was a perfect culmination. And then I couldn't even get to be ahead of the curve because the Lions won. Now it's a trendy pick to pick the Lions over the Falcons. So I couldn't even take that one and run with it that I said 2 weeks ago that the Falcons would lose to the Lions. But all of that to say, Detroit is not better than Arizona, but they're not as bad as their record suggested. So the line probably should have been a little closer than 12.5 in that game. It's just everyone was betting the Arizona Cardinals. Did not expect Jared Goff to have the 5th highest passer rating in the entire NFL that week.
8-1 in his career against the Cardinals.
Yeah,
it's really dumb. That exists.
And that also includes John Walford winning one of the games against the Arizona Cardinals, because it's all very weird. All of this for this game, I'm going to take the Colts in this game. And the reason I'm going to take the Colts is Colts are really good at football. The Arizona Cardinals, this is a game that I probably would have said they would have lost before they lose to the Detroit Lions. The fact that they lose to the Detroit Lions gives me pause for concern. I will say, though, the one thing that's always working in the Arizona Cardinals' favor is that quarterback. And that I don't know how healthy Kyler Murray is at this point in the season. I know he took a month off to recover from injury, which means there's no real way he's back to 100% at this point. But whatever percent Kyler Murray's playing at, the last 2 games he had a 60 passer rating and a 70.2 passer rating in the loss to the Rams and the loss to the Detroit Lions. But we know that Kyler Murray, when healthy, can be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL and give you 120 passer ratings. So Kyler Murray can do it for the Arizona Cardinals to at least keep them in the game. Not that the Arizona Cardinals need help staying in games. They're still a very strong team regardless, with a pretty good defense, I'll say. We thought their secondary would be terrible to start the year, and then they were really good, and now they're playing terrible again. So it's really hard to figure that out. But Arizona has Kyler Murray, and having Kyler Murray always gives you a chance to win against teams like the Colts.
Yeah, and that's somewhat of a problem statement there. You did mention with the caveat, if Kyler Murray is healthy there, but we're in December. Not a lot of players are healthy. There's so many banged up quarterbacks. I mean, there's so many NFL veterans that would say no one's healthy in December. So Kyler Murray just at this point in the year, and I don't know if it's also reflective of last year, has to just grit his teeth and power through, because you're right. He is the driver on this team. He's the franchise quarterback. He's the guy that the Cardinals are going to have to decide in a year or two, what type of insane contract are we going to give you?
Technically, this offseason, Kyler's eligible for an extension beginning in March.
He is eligible. I might be willing to play it out one more year if I was running their team, but that's not my decision to make. Either way, you're looking at this point where if he continues to falter in December, that is not a good thing for your team. That is not a good thing when it comes to doling out a huge contract. Now, I will say where I agree with you here. I'm going to go with the Colts too, but it starts with just the dark horse of dark horse MVP candidates, Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor going against a Cardinals run defense that is bottom 10 in yards per carry, that almost allows 5 yards per carry. And we have seen this man. He is about to, if he scores in this game, 11 straight games with a touchdown, which I believe, I may be wrong here, is an NFL record. Jonathan Taylor has been on another level this year. And even when Derrick Henry comes back, there's a legitimate argument to be made on who is the better running back. I guess it's more of a pick your poison type of thing. You probably lean with the bigger guy, but I guess it depends on what type of Derrick Henry do we get back when he comes back from this injury, because we've seen injuries like that, particularly a big guy. You hear about foot injuries. You don't like any of your big guys going down with a foot injury. Jonathan Taylor, I think, will be legitimately a cover boy, #1 fantasy running back for the next couple years here, as we start to see the other old guard of Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry even, start to get injured and banged up. Jonathan Taylor has been a game changer this year. Carson Wentz didn't even have to do much. He was on cruise control in that Patriots game, which is probably for the best because obviously the Patriots, whenever Carson Wentz was throwing the ball, they were licking their chops there. But I just love that Jonathan Taylor has turned into a guy that could just call game. His late run there that pretty much sealed the deal for the Colts. It tells you that he has been just out of this world this season for him. And as much as I hate picking against a team to lose 3 straight games, especially a good teams don't typically lose 3 straight games. I do have to go with the Colts because they're playing consistently good football. Just at the end of the day, it's just good football, which I think is the important thing.
In fairness, the Rams did technically lose 3 straight games also, and I still consider them to be a very good team. So
yes, I'm just saying I don't like picking a team that I consider good to lose 3 straight games. I think the Rams, when it came down to it, it was just scheduling. Obviously, you have a bad game against the Niners. You go against the Packers. Who else did they lose to in that stretch?
The Titans.
The Titans. You face 3 good teams in a row. The Cardinals, I guess, really have no room for error considering they also face the Lions sandwich in between theirs, potentially theirs, if they go on, in fact, this 3-game streak that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think Arizona is faltering at the wrong time this year. Injuries are going to be the reason that they probably don't make a deep playoff run. Their season will end, if it doesn't end against either the Rams or Cowboys in the wild card, it will end whenever they have to travel to Tampa or to Green Bay. I feel pretty secure in that, but that's still a victory for Cardinals fans. And the thing I say with Walter on the podcast a lot is whenever Cardinals fans get down is like, you have that quarterback for a decade. That special quarterback is going to be there for a decade for your franchise, barring, health totally falling apart for him like RG3. But that dude looks good, like he's going to be special for a long time. And that's a victory for Arizona.
He's going to be fun, but I guess a big determining factor and a good comp for Kyler Murray is he going to be Russell Wilson without the early career success? Because if Russell Wilson doesn't have that Super Bowl, how do we look at Russell Wilson's career? Yeah, he probably has a little bit more bells and whistles than Russ. When you talk about his ability to run in the open field, I think he's a little bit more dynamic in his ability to play make in that area, whereas Russ relied more on just scramble drill, just get out of the pocket and just make some crazy bullshit happen. They both have a very good deep ball.
Sorry, I was going to say, while Russell Wilson is a very good athlete, Kyler Murray is almost universally regarded as the greatest high school football player in the history of the state of Texas. So I would say
Kyle Allen break his records or something like that. Not that it matters. Like that. Not that it matters, but I just find it kind of funny that you think about bringing up high school stats. I think Kyle Allen technically has him beat on
but he made it to the NFL. Kyle Allen made it to the NFL.
Just tells you it's a lot of good products coming out of the state of Texas. Am I right? I haven't seen a high school game myself either, but whatever.
Yeah, Kyler Murray feels like more talented Russell Wilson. That's where I see him right now, is like more talented version of Russell Wilson at a younger stage.
But when he gets that contract, when you get him for the next 10 years, will you be able to build the team around him that is necessary? Because he didn't come into the league with a Legion of Boom in his backyard.
This is totally fair. I don't know if the Cardinals will win at that level that the Seahawks, one of the greatest winning teams of our lifetime, will win at. But I think that even still, the Cardinals can be very successful with a $45 million contract for Kyler Murray that's about to be signed in a few months.
We have 2 more games remaining. Both of these games are very important for their respective divisions. In fact, it's hard to pick which one I like more. So that's why I'm going to cop out and defer to you. Which one are we going with here, Kyle? Because these are just 2 really bangers of the games we have.
This is difficult. I really, really, really want to talk about the Bengals and Ravens game at some point, because it's basically stakes and storylines on the playoffs. And we'll talk about the AFC playoff picture a little bit. So do we want to go there?
At some point? Well, let's make it this point then. Yes, let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk about the Ravens. A very important game in the AFC North between these teams. Did we think we'd be here when we started the season? Did we think the Ravens were going to run away with it? Our preseason predictions respectively would probably reflect that. I think I had the Ravens as a 13-win team, and injuries just continued to destabilize them as the season progressed. And the Bengals, I thought that would be a nice story at the start of the year. I had them as a 7-win projection. And then you start seeing the team start to pick up there. You start seeing them go head-to-head against the Packers and have a good game. See them beat a good team like the Ravens, beat the hell out of the Steelers twice. And then you're like, okay, the Bengals are actually just a good team this year. And now, as it stands here today, they are currently leading the AFC North. So it's on the Ravens to go into this game, go into to Cincinnati to take back the division. They are entering as 4.5-point underdogs. And as of this recording, because obviously when we have a huge injury situation like this, it is important to state we are recording here on a Wednesday. We don't know if Lamar is going to play at this time. Could be another week of Tyler Huntley. And to his credit, Tyler Huntley may be earning himself a contract in the future. Tyler Huntley may be earning himself a place with another team, given his success against the Packers, given his success against the Browns late in that game. Another big storyline and a big thing that's been talked about on every mainstream platform this week has been John Harbaugh, analytics-based approaches. The fact that 2 of the Ravens' last 3 losses, now that the Ravens are on a 3-game slide, were because of the decision to go for a late 2-point conversion rather than just take the automatic extra point with Justin Tucker. I don't disagree with John Harbaugh going for it, though. I know the fans hate it now, but there is not a single fan in most audiences, 99%, that doesn't say, let's go for it, guys. Come on, buckle down. Let's go for it. We got this. We got them reeling. We got them on their back foot. Let's take them out. I just disagree with maybe the play calling. Maybe just rolling out that rollout pass to Mark Andrews just isn't the move for them at this point. I think if the Ravens are going to make those bold approaches, they should maybe be a little bit more dynamic, but it's one of those things that's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're a genius when it works and you're an idiot when it fails. Whenever they did it against the Chiefs early in the year, who was the first to post those Randy Marsh, big balls, Baltimore Ravens memes? Us. And it's because he earned it at the time. But when you lose, you're just the village idiot.
Yeah, of course. And this is the thing that I will not give life to the people who want to argue that they should not have gone for it in that situation, because as soon as they scored the touchdown, I'm sitting by my TV and saying, go for 2. Of course. Like, just watching the game, it's so obvious to see that they should go for 2 in that situation because they're not supposed to be here. They were 10-point underdogs against the Green Bay Packers. They were down 14 like 8 minutes ago and stormed all the way back.
Yeah. And let's look at John Harbaugh's explanations for both times that he's went for it in those situations. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were down to their very last cornerback. In fact, going into this game, the Ravens don't have a single person in their defensive backfield that they started the year with. That's how depleted the Baltimore Ravens secondary is. So against the Steelers, they were really reeling after Marlon Humphreys went down in that game. Fast forward to this week, as a Niners fan who saw it in week 4 when the Green Bay Packers rolled into town, Aaron Rodgers with time, if you give Aaron Rodgers a chance late, it can bite you in the ass. So
not
if you
only
have a chance
that,
to
Aaron
win
Rodgers
it there
could
and
have
then,
also gotten the ball first in overtime.
yes, if he got the ball first in overtime and you factor in your porous secondary against one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, is that really a gamble you want to take? I'd rather take the chance of my team locking down and gaining 2 yards because my team has been scoring points consistently throughout this game. I'd rather take 2-yard chance than going against one of the greatest of all time quarterbacks when I'm starting Kyle Ledbetter at safety and Julian Martinez at starting corner.
Yeah, so this is classic game theory is what we're talking about here. Is do you just play it out as long as you can and try and improve your odds, or do you just skip to the end result as quickly as possible? I like to often play the end result as quickly as possible myself when doing this game theory analysis. Like, I know where this is going. I think my odds are pretty good right now. Let's play it out as we go. So just quickly evaluating your odds and realizing what it is. John Harbaugh said afterwards, if you look at the numbers, going for 2 was maybe a better call. Like, he had no idea what the numbers say there. He does the thing every time where he goes to Lamar and he's like, what do you want to do? And Lamar's like, I want to go for it. And they're like, let's go for it.
The player always wants to go for it. The fans always want to go for it. And it's only when it doesn't work that everyone hates the idea of going for it.
Yeah. And because remember, they went for 2 at the end of the game against the Chiefs early on in the season.
Well, we said big balls, Randy Marsh, John Harbaugh.
Yeah. And it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, like you say. Let's move on to talking about the Bengals a little bit, because I said I didn't want to talk about going for 2 and give breath of life to this conversation, because of course they should have gone for 2 there. I've watched enough football to know you should go for 2 in that situation. The AFC playoff picture looks like an insane jumble of chaos right now, because seeds 4 through 13 have either 7 or 8 wins right now. It's actually not as complicated as people think it is. It looks chaotic right now, but it's not as complicated as you think. The only reason it looks complicated is because the AFC West and AFC North, all of their teams have at least 7 wins. The reason that's the case is because the AFC West played the NFC East this year. The NFC East is a big load of crap. The NFC North, outside of the Packers, is a gigantic load of crap. And so they just kept beating up on all those other teams because the teams in that division are terrible. And what's going to happen in the AFC, I'll put this out here and I will put my stamp on this because I've talked about it multiple times on Take It Easy. I think I might have mentioned it off the top here a little bit. Here's what's going to happen in the AFC. The Chiefs are going to be the 1 seed. The Patriots are going to win their division, most likely. We'll talk about that game in a second. If not, Buffalo's going to be in there. You're going to have the Titans win the AFC South, even though no one wants them to win it. They're going to win it. It's just going to happen. We're all going to have to deal with it. No one's happy about it, but we're just going to have to accept that the Titans are going to host a playoff game. The Bills are going to be the 5 seed. And if they're not the 5 seed, it's because they'll be the 6 seed. The Colts are going to make the playoffs and the Chargers are going to be the 7 seed. And then one team from the AFC North is going to make the playoffs. And it'll probably be whoever wins this football game, which I will say is going to be the Bengals if Lamar Jackson does not play. And it's going to be the Ravens if Lamar Jackson does play. That is the pick I'm going to lay down here. If you're going to make me put it down, I think the odds are more likely Lamar doesn't play. So I'll take the Cincinnati Bengals to win this week. And if Lamar Jackson plays, I would like to reserve the right to say that I called it if the Ravens win and Lamar plays, but I will take the Cincinnati Bengals.
Motion denied.
I'll take the Bengals to win, even though it's weird that the Bengals are going to make the playoffs. But fun fact, 16 of the last 18 years in the NFL, a team has gone from last place to first place in their division. It did not happen last year because it used to be 16 out of 17. And then this year, the Cincinnati Bengals would be the one team that goes from last place to first place as the NFL slowly legislates parity further out of the sport. So the Bengals might get to be that team this year. Congratulations to them.
I mentioned I was an early adopter on the Colts, was certainly how an early adopter on the Bengals. I'm going to stick with them at this point in the season because they've earned the respect that they're getting. And they're a little bit banged up on defense going into this game. They didn't have Luke Wilson last week. Trey Hendrickson, I believe, will still be out this week as well. So they're not nearly as dynamic defensively as they were. But I'm starting to learn that this Bengals team is a little bit deeper on the defensive line than we gave them credit for initially. We're starting to learn more names, like a BJ Hill comes out and has been one of the better run stoppers in the league. And we're starting to see these guys contribute all over the field for them. Even watching them 2 weeks ago when they played my Niners, I was watching this game. I'm like, damn, Trey Hendrickson went out. They're still getting pressure. They're still getting into the backfield. So this defense, they're an AFC North style of defense. That's what I'll say about them. They are built for this division. And if you're talking about just long-term prospects, if you're talking about futures for the Bengals, I think that as long as they maintain a good core, obviously they got Trey Hendrickson on a bargain deal, one of the league's best bargains when they got Trey Hendrickson. If they're able to keep that core around, they're going to have a team that could compete for multiple years. And it starts too with the fact that they have a franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow. We'll see how those wars go over the next few years. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, head to head for years. That could be a fun dynamic. We don't know what the Steelers are going to do. We certainly don't know what the Browns are going to do long term. But I'm confident here today that I say Joe Burrow can be the Bengals quarterback for the next 10 years. We talk about Kyler being the quarterback for the next 10 years for the Cardinals. We should talk about Joe Burrow being the quarterback for the next 10 years for the Bengals. Their Boomer Esiason, I'll give you. Ohio kid. It worked. I remember going back to draft day and everyone's like, don't go with the Bengals. They'll ruin your career. Well, Joe, they went in there. They listened to him. He said, hey, I want Jamar Chase. They drafted Jamar Chase. And guess what? Jamar Chase, the last time he faced the Ravens, put up over 200 yards against them. That Ravens defense was a lot better than the Ravens defense that we have here in week 16. That is why I think the Bengals are going to win this game. I think the Bengals are just going to be more dynamic offensively. I know Joe Mixon picked up an injury throughout the week. We'll see his status as he goes into game day. But even if he's not back, they have a solid back there with Samaje Perine, Chris Evans, they've been able to get production out of. So they're still going to be able to run the ball. And certainly they're going to have no problem passing the ball against the Ravens. And if it is Huntley, backup quarterbacks, they tend to get worse as they play more games. Niners fans, too, can relate with Nick Mullins. Speaking of Nick Mullins being back in the NFL, the more a backup quarterback plays, the worse they get. Tyler Huntley, the best thing that could happen in his career is Lamar Jackson is back this week, and he could capitalize on a big contract in the offseason and not have to play this make or break game for the division. I'm on the Bengals. You're on the Bengals. Pretty aligned so far, I guess, aside from our Monday night game, the TuAnon versus the Illumasantes. But
the Illumasanti, I kind of want to hang on to that a little bit more. Yeah. I'm going to reverse course on this one. In the spirit of intrigue, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to win against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to take a cojones pick this week.
Breaking news. Cojones pick of the week.
Yes, we are dropping our tremendo cojones on the table. I don't know why I said that. That sounds weird, but I am dropping the tremendo cojones on this one. I am going to take the Baltimore Ravens, even if I think Tyler Huntley's going to go 8 for 21 with 2 interceptions.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. We're out for blood this week. Juju Talk Sports. Kyle Ledbetter, even though he's got a lead on me in the standings, and I'm not too happy about that one, but it's
a pretty big lead now. I'm pretty sure. I'm up by a lot.
It's like 4 or 5 games now at this point with 3 weeks to go here. I'm not liking my chances there. Maybe I rebound in the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah.
I had good success in the baseball playoffs, so maybe that could carry over. We'll see. Maybe we do a little bit of curving the scales. No, we won't. We'll play it straight up.
Also,
we're men here.
While we're talking about this game, if I had to give you either Buffalo or Indianapolis playing a playoff game on the road at Cincinnati, they'd probably be favored. And by how many points do you think they'd be favored by?
Buffalo or the Colts playing in Cincinnati. Goddamn. It couldn't be more than 3.5. It's probably closer to 2.5, honestly. I think that the Bengals, like I said, they've earned the respect they've gotten. They're sound defensively. They have playmakers on offense. They played a tough game against Denver. But I told you going into that game, I was like, Vic Fangio, Denver, you're playing in Denver. It's not going to be a game in which you just walk in. And as much as we think so lowly of the Broncos, you're not going to go in and kick their ass. The one thing I would be disappointed in the Bengals in is Teddy Bridgewater went out early in that game and they weren't able to do a little bit more. But either way, that's a tight game, no matter who out of those opponents they face, because the Bengals are decent at stopping the run. So can they contain Jonathan Taylor? I'm not saying they're great at stopping the run, but they could do a good job on Jonathan Taylor, as much as a good job as anyone could do. Against the Bills, if they get Trey Hendrickson back against that Bills offensive line, I think that's their opportunity to really feast. And 2, we'll see this more. Again, we haven't really gotten to see this get tested out too much. Tre'Davious White not being there is still an impacting thing for that Bills defense long term. And you're going against a top 5 wide receiving core in the Cincinnati Bengals. I feel very confident saying they're a top 5 wide receiving core.
Well, I see a chance to lead in and transition when I see one as a podcast host myself. So let's transition into the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots here in week 16 with huge stakes, by the way. If the Buffalo Bills win, the Buffalo Bills have the same record as the New England Patriots. But if the Patriots win, the Patriots clinch the AFC East title.
I see you, Kyle. Just taking my shine, taking my transition, taking my lead in, but it's respect. We're mutual colleagues here. We're podcasters in arms.
Game respect
game. Certified deal to #BustTheSlump. Let's move into, like you mentioned, those Buffalo Bills versus the Patriots. One guarantee I can make. Mac Jones will 100% throw more than 3 passes in this game. I can, with 100% certainty, say that. One thing I found funny that I had in my notes going into this one, obviously the Bills, they had to break off a 2-game losing streak after facing both Brady and then Belichick in consecutive weeks. They go against Cam Newton, beat Cam Newton, because at this point, Cam Newton is just a shell of the player that he once was. But I find it hilarious that in the last 20 years, the Bills only have a handful of wins against the Patriots, and 2 of them came against Cam Newton. So it's a little bit of poetic imagery to think about. Of course, they would get right against Cam Newton. That's the only way they could beat the Patriots last year, with Cam Newton under center. They have to rebound the following week in this Patriots sandwich that we have here. Almost Patriots, Bucks, Cam Newton, Patriots again. They have to bounce back against the Patriots to ensure that they don't get swept. They need to not get swept by the Patriots. I think more than this division, I think this, you always talk about the macro level of things, talking about the bigger picture. I don't think the Bills mentally, their fan base mentally, can deal with the year you were supposed to be good, the year the division was supposed to be yours. The Patriots sweep you and win the division from you. That's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth all offseason. That's going to be the type of things that you're thinking about going into next season, of what changes, how do we get better, what moves do we make? Because the Patriots, aside from one gap year, which is essentially what it is, just a gap year, own you. We talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Bears. They own you at this point. This is legitimately like walking into daddy's house here when you head into Foxborough for the Buffalo Bills. So can they get right? One big storyline I mentioned last time these played, Josh Allen has not looked good against the Patriots. Yes, there was, of course, the insane weather. So it's almost like you want to throw out his stats against them the last time they played, but only a 7-6 touchdown interception ratio, a quarterback rating of 77 in the previous games. Bill has done a good job on Josh. Josh is still a young quarterback. Obviously, we still have a young quarterback in Mac Jones, and Mac had 2 killer interceptions for them against the Colts that I'm sure that he got reamed in practice over this entire week. I'm sure Bill did not let that one go. And at this point in the season, one thing that Bill does say, is a popular phrase of his, there are no rookies in December. So can Mac Jones mentally put Saturday's performance behind him, and in a game in which he's obviously going to have to be more of a contributor, contribute? A notable thing too for the Bills, just to throw in here, Cole Beasley is unvaccinated. So obviously now that he has the virus, he will be out the next 10 days, which will mean he will be out this game, meaning more work for Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs. All right. What are your thoughts on this one?
So one of the things that I find interesting coming into this, similarly to last time, is Buffalo and the Patriots are very evenly matched teams. I feel like both of those teams are around similar skill sets, and it's why it's fun when they play twice a year, because it makes the matchups more interesting. This one I'm going to give to the New England Patriots, which might just be because they're playing at home. I don't know if Damian Harris is going to play or not, or what the situation is there, but I do like the chances for the New England Patriots to win this game, similarly to how I thought Buffalo had a chance to win at home against the Patriots. But what's interesting is, like you said, with Cole Beasley being out, potentially Damian Harris being out for the Patriots, how do they work Mac Jones into that offense? Because I think Buffalo is about as good as the Colts, but it's hard because the Colts have been really hot recently. So Buffalo is a really good team, and the Patriots obviously just lost to the Colts. So it's not like the Patriots are totally unbeatable like when they were on that massive win streak. I think Buffalo is going to lose this game, but they're going to do it in a way that still keeps us interested in Buffalo going forward, because Buffalo really misses Tre'Davious White. They really have struggled to rush the pass since the start of the season, where they were like, we have 7 pass rushers and we're going to dominate you up front. And it hasn't quite been as nice as they wanted it to. I think Buffalo going up against the Patriots offense doesn't, again, have too much to worry about, because the Patriots are going to run the ball similarly to how it went last time. Patriots have a low upside offense, even though they put up like 50 points against the Jets a few weeks ago. So I do like the New England Patriots in this game, but only because the same reasons as last time, which version of Josh Allen is going to show up for the Buffalo Bills? Because if Josh Allen has one of these crazy games against a really good Patriots defense, yeah, it probably changes the math a little bit. The reason the Colts beat the Patriots last week was not because Jonathan Taylor was amazing at running the football, although he was against a very good Patriots defense. It's because Mac Jones threw 2 interceptions. They had a blocked punt in the game, and that was a weird result that ended up working in favor of Indianapolis. So I like the Patriots to win this game. I like the Patriots to lock up the AFC East. They'll probably be the 2 seed in the AFC, looking at how things are kind of playing out right now in the tiebreakers and such, because I think the Chiefs might win out the rest of the season, and the Patriots might as well, which I think means the tiebreaker goes to the Chiefs. If you take the Titans out of the picture, it's hard to figure out, but I do like the New England Patriots to win this week, and it's going to be really, really fun to watch. That's the thing I'll say also. This game, regardless of how the result goes, is going to be really fascinating, just like the first Bills and Patriots game.
You talk about these teams being very, very similar. You're talking about 2 of the best defenses in the league, where the Patriots allow 16 points a game, a little more over 16 points a game. The Bills only allow a little bit over 17 points a game. When you talk about total yardage, the Bills allow the league's best yardage against in the league, whereas the Patriots are 3rd in that category. I guess if you were to say X factor, it is just Josh Allen. It's just Josh Allen at the end of the day, because you mentioned that the Patriots are a low upside offense, while the Bills are a one-dimensional offense. The Bills live and die with Josh. Devin Singletary, his 85 yards against the Carolina Panthers, that was a season high. That was a season high for basically their starting running back at the position. One thing I found shocking, the Panthers are a top 2 defense. I use that loosely. Top 2 defense in the league. You'll say the Bills came off a performance of putting up 30 points against them, but the Panthers are a little bit more fraudulent in my mind in terms of like how their defense is weighed versus the Patriots. The Patriots are a sound fundamental defense that consistently week to week is not going to make blown assignments. They're not going to make the dumb play. Josh Allen, if you make the dumb play in this game, that's how you're going to lose. Escape the pocket, roll around, run back 30 yards, 40 yards, and just try and chuck it. That's how you lose this game.
It's the same thing that happened the last time they played, which was Josh Allen completed like 50-something% of his passes, and they only scored 10 points in the snow and the cold. And if he completes maybe 2 or 3 more passes, they win the game. If Tyler Bass makes one of those kicks, they win that game. They can get by even with Josh Allen doing some of the bad stuff. It's just, is Josh Allen going to have not a game that takes them out of it? If Josh Allen takes them, same thing we talked about with the Browns and Packers game, which is I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to turn the ball over a lot, but at the same time, if he does, the Browns have a chance. If Josh Allen turns the ball over a lot, they're going to lose the game pretty bad because, like you said, they are a totally one-dimensional offense. Same thing as the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, no respect for the passing game, and they're going up against one of the best passing defenses in the NFL. On the flip side, the Patriots are one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, even if they didn't do so hot against Jonathan Taylor. Like, no shame in that on their part. Like, the Patriots are really, really good at stopping the run, and the Bills have no rushing attacks. So totally one-dimensional offense. Belichick is going to dare them to do it. Maybe Belichick takes away Stephon Diggs as like, we're just going to put an entire emphasis on take away Diggs, dare you to win with Gabriel Davis. That might actually be the strategy now that I say it out loud. And maybe the do your job Patriots will be able to execute on that and get a much needed division title against the Buffalo Bills.
And aside from this game, again, just mentioning Tre'Davious White alone, we still have not seen enough teams be able to challenge that, to really push that envelope. Because we saw the 3 pass attempt day by Mac Jones. They go against the Bucs, and the Bucs were able to exploit it a little bit more. But then you go against Cam and the Panthers offense. So what can we really tell from that? I think if we see close to 20 passing attempts by Mac Jones, you'll see a lot of go to where Tre'Davious White used to be in the Bills defense. And I think that that's going to be a big difference from the last time they played. Obviously, we're not going to have 50-mile-per-hour winds just gusting everywhere. Though, if I looked at that injury report real quick, because this is important for analysis. Let's see what the weather is. Weather is in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's important to check this out because New England Patriots are going to try and use the weather as an advantage against the Buffalo Bills. And
it is looking like it is going to be 30 degrees. Fun with a 40% chance of looks like snowfall. So classic
wonderful.
Foxborough game. Maybe we will see only 3 passing attempts.
All right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm pretty confident they will throw 4 times in a ball game.
Mac Jones is going to have to wear his full scuba suit again, like he did against the Bills, which is still one of the greatest things I've heard is that he wore a full ass scuba outfit underneath his jersey.
Remember, Mac, this is year 1 of a hopefully long NFL tenure that you signed up for and a long NFL career, perhaps with the Patriots. So better acclimate. Better not invest too much in that Miami residence or that Hawaii residence. You got to get used to some cold weather. Or if you want to just
wait 4 years, I assume by then the Jaguars quarterback opening will be available. So you can go down there and enjoy the sun of Florida.
And that's both an indictment on Mac as much as it's an indictment on Trevor Lawrence.
Yep, I did that on purpose. Did that for the joke on purpose because Mac Jones is from Jacksonville. And for people who don't know, he has been seen wearing Blake Bortles jerseys out just while hanging out in New England and Boston. Like he just wears Blake Bortles jerseys around.
I'm sure that there is some Patriots fans that might cheer for Blake Bortles. They have some positive memories of seeing him on the field.
Of Blake Bortles being 8 minutes away from beating the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl. Yep.
Yeah. And then just pissing it all away.
Not really quickly too. They're like, I think 11-44 since that game. Like it's been crazy how bad they've been since then.
Hey, you're going against Tommy. You're against Tommy Terrific. Show some respect.
Yeah, there's some respect.
That was a little bit more Brooklynish. See, the variations between Brooklyn, Boston, I always find that so fascinating.
Tom Brady. That's how you say it. Tom Brady.
Isn't the main thing, I think I heard you just kind of get rid of R's.
Yeah, get rid of the Oz. Oz or like Mark Wahlberg.
I realized that Mark is smart.
Mark is smart. Yeah, smart is a good way to go about it.
Mark is smart. He's wicked good.
He's wicked good. Wicked good. Mark is smart. Just listen to Bill Burr talk some more. You'll get it.
Yeah. Hang around Southie for a little bit, right? Talk about apples.
Watch Ted again and listen to Mark Wahlberg talk.
Oh my God. I'm just thinking about the Ted scene where he's talking about like dating Boston women. Ada. Put that image in your head if you're just listening in your car. Imagine you're just blasting this on your speakers. You're just kind of around the house out of context. What is that?
Mark, we're just talking about Mark Wahlberg, of course, and the Buffalo Bills, and also maybe Baker Mayfield.
You know, sometimes when you're listening to podcasts out loud, I feel like it's like you almost can't like have someone watch anime out of context. That's cannot fair. Have someone walk in and you're watching anime and they just walk in out of context, because how am I supposed to explain a demon fox or a plant monster or whatever it is?
Yeah, I totally get it.
A man just screaming for his hair to turn blonde.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just drop random references in the middle of conversation that no one understands from podcasts. Just totally normal, you know, just Mike Tomlin saying splash over and over. No reason. I'll just be like splash.
Ain't saying never, but never.
Never.
So that's my favorite Mike Tomlin quote right there.
Yeah, of course. Never. Never. That was kind of Orgeron-y a little bit. That was a little too much Orgeron in my Mike Tomlin.
I don't think we even got that on a recording. Yeah, we were talking before this one, just some Ed Orgeron. Stay tuned for that impersonation one day, folks.
Yeah. Why were we talking about Orgeron? Oh, yeah, because Juju misspelled Merry Christmas. It was like Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Ed Orgeron says Christmas. He wishes you a happy Christmas.
So are most accents basically dependent on you willing to say a letter or not?
Pretty much, yeah. I think that's kind of how accents work here. And then, yeah.
This is very a linguistic podcast. Let me see if I got better on it. Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, that's right. We have to sing the Miami Dolphins fight song here before we get out.
Uiagalelei.
Uiagalelei. Yes.
Uiagalelei.
All right. So here's how it goes real quick. I'll get it for you real quick.
All right.
Miami
this is how we're closing the show, guys.
The greatest football team. They run the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air. We're on the ground. We're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, because we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1. We're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1. Something like that. That's how it goes. Or we can do the T-Pain remix of it, which is a little bit funnier than that.
Or we could just say, shout out to TuAnon. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. Juju Talk Sports, Kyle Ledbetter. We will see you next time.